Welcome back to the channel, you guys. JP here. So we're going to be working back on this Willys project. We have the motor mounts already set in place. That side, the motor mount is completely built. This side, the motor mount is tacked. So what we need to finish doing is building the reinforcement bars for the mount itself. We'll get that all cut out on the CNC plasma table today. We'll get it all welded together. We'll get it set back in the frame, and then we can start working on a transmission crossmember. Now, this kind of process is very tedious. It's literally back and forth, back and forth. So put the mount in, take your measurements, take it back out, weld it, put it back in. Then from there, you have to square everything back up before you weld the mounts to the frame itself. So it's going to be a little bit tedious back and forth on this video, but we'll go ahead and get this thing going.
Built with soul, not just steel.
Okay, so one of the very first things we want to do, obviously, we had a pretty big rain last night, which was nice. It made it nice and fresh outside for us to work today, but I'm gonna go ahead and get our tarp off of everything. We'll be bringing this thing inside the shop once we get the CNC stuff cut out, because I have to move the CNC away from the wall. So almost time for a new tarp. Everything's nice and dry. Okay. This tarp has seen better days. Okay, as you can see here, this mount is fully welded. It's in place. We just need to weld it to the frame, but we're not going to do that until we re-square everything back up. It's looking pretty good in here. This is the one we're working on now. We just have a few tacks in place. So what we want to do is we actually want to take the narrowest measurement here, and then we're going to build our support brackets for in here, and then we'll have to pull this whole mount out and then weld the braces bottom, top, and front side here. So again, pretty tedious. I have to get the cherry picker out, lift this thing back up. It's really hard to get these mounts because these are going to be permanent to the structure. These are permanently to the frame, and then obviously you'll pull your bolt and take the mount and engine out that way. But it is very tedious, this part, because getting these back into place is kind of a bear. So we have to get the motor pretty high up and get all these mounts loose so we can kind of take it out as a whole. So let's go ahead. We've got a jet going by. Let's go ahead and take some measurements here, and then we'll start to just design those up real quick on the CAD software. What we want to do is get our narrowest part, which is going to be on the frame side because this is tapered. So we want it in millimeters. This is 25.3. Okay. And this is 23.57. Yeah, we could really go 23.57. Depending on where it is up here, 25.6. Okay. Stand in front of this heater for a minute. It's cold. Okay, so 23.57. 25.6. Now we want the piece to slide in, so we'll go a hair smaller. Now we need our overall length, which is gonna be overall length is gonna be till it touches 138 millimeters by 138. Bottom side here. Oh, I'm gonna lay on the ground here. Well, here we go. That's 120 plus, it's about 140 should cover that. Same thing here, 140, and this should be 55. Okay, 55 and 20. Not 138, I said. 138. This was 121. Sorry, not two. This was 220 on the bottom, is what I meant. So yeah, 138, 200 plus an additional 20. 220, 220 for the bottom, 55 for the top. That one is also 25.4. This fit perfectly in there. And then 25.4 by, I would say 25, actually 25. So that'll allow us to cube in here, box it all in all the way around. We have our measurements now. All right, one of the things I absolutely love about this Eastwood plasma cutter is its shapes file. Let's get this thing turned on. All right, so what's really awesome, you can come in here, press any key to continue. We're gonna go shapes library. We want a simple square, or rectangle, it's the same one. So we're gonna go to number 1, hit enter. This is in millimeters. So what we want to do is we want our first one to be 23.57. So 23.57. And we're gonna go down. 220. There you go. Enter, enter, enter. F7 is okay. Now to bring it into our machine, what we can do here is we can come all the way over here and we can run a test. F7, F7. Okay. So we want to go use up as much space of this as possible. That's a little too far that way, so we need to come down and go over just a hair. Test it again. That looks good right there. One more try, make sure we're not getting past that. Right at that edge, perfect. All right, guys, so simple as that. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this thing cut. Okay, I had to mess around with a few settings on the machine. I forgot I had it set to thin stuff, so you can see I was messing around with the arc settings there. But we got our pieces, got them all cleaned up. This will allow us to box in that motor mount. All right. This one should be our top one here. And we'll be able to tap that into place. Yep, that'll go like that. Perfect, perfect size, look at that. So, then we'll be able to weld it across. Finish welding underneath. This one's gonna go down here. This one goes right like so, beautiful. All right, we've got our pieces. Now what we need to do is, since that's already tacked in place, it shouldn't move on the mount itself. So we need to support this engine, get this whole mount system out, get the rubber bushing out. We got to press those out so that way we don't melt them while we're welding. And we'll weld all these in, and this mount will be as complete as this side is. Look here. So this one we had to cut out around the brake line, but that side does not have a brake line in the way. So we did not have to make any adjustments for that. I got this cherry picker out here so we can get this mount off. Off. There we are. Okay. All right, so we should have one motor mount ready to come up. I'm gonna jack this thing up a little bit. There we go. That side's still on. We're good there. So now this side should give us everything we need. Okay, to get this thing out. Make sure the bolt comes into the back side next time. Let's see what we can do about lifting this a little more on this side. Okay. There we go. Okay, it's so close. There we go. Let's actually take this heat shield off the knock sensor or whatever this is. Yeah, that should give us the room we need right there. Looks like a 13 possibly. Yeah, knock sensor. Okay. And it'll give us a little bit more room. Gonna rock this back just a little further. There we go. Bolts out. Now we can get this out. Boom. Just like that, guys. And then from there, we can get our bracket out. All right. Just want to make sure we put that back in the right direction, which is downwards. Okay, here we go. Now we'll get the bushing out, we'll put our supports in, and we'll get this thing actually welded up nicely. All right, you guys. Got this thing welded up. So we're gonna let it cool, it's still hot. Let it cool, and then we're going to press our bushing back in, and we'll reinstall this on the frame. We need to clean the frame before we install this so it's ready to weld. So once we get the, we'll get this one installed, we'll lift the other side up, we'll remove that motor mount as well, clean the frame up, get it ready to weld as well, and then we can put these in and tack them actually into place on the frame. All right, we had a hailstorm come through just randomly. So let's get this uncovered again. All right. Okay. So here is the final part here. Came out really good. I'm gonna clean it up a bit more before we paint them, but freaking boxed in, sweet. It's at a slight angle this way, a slight angle this way. It's all matched up to where it needs to be. So let's get this thing in. Ugh. We can sit here and go like this. Oh, we also got the frame cleaned up right before the hail came, so that's nice. There we go. So we cleaned up the front side, the top, and the bottom, so we'll be able to weld it nicely here. All right. All right, there is our motor mount bolts. Let's get these back in here. Okay, there it is. Okay. There, I had to shift the motor back to its original location, basically. 2. Three and 4. I got 4 bolts lined up. One. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, guys. I am really happy with that. Okay, this thing is sitting pretty. Look at that back clearance here. Everything clears in the back. Everything is clearing up front. We've got plenty of crank clearance. Even the factory transmission lines will notch this little bit out, and these factory transmission lines can stay. That is freaking excellent. This thing is looking sweet. We'll clean this up a little bit more. That's where the factory battery tray was. We'll probably end up mounting the ECU right here because it's on a short leash. It's right here, so we'll probably end up mounting the ECU back here on this firewall. But man, so now what we need to do is we need to clean up the frame on this side. We already got that side cleaned up, so we'll grab our die grinder with the little disc. We'll clean those up. We've got more than enough clearance in our up and down travel where we're sitting. Yeah. Okay. So, and we'll put some bump stops. These ones are kind of worn out, but we can get a little bit bigger bump stops. So, but we got all the clearance that we want. We can't go up any higher without completely cutting into under the seat, the floorboards, more than we already have. If you guys haven't watched the last videos, we've already had to cut out this much as it is. Right now the transmission's sagging, so we'll get a jack under there. We'll get the transmission brought up to get the tilt just right before we tack weld these in. Side to side wise, they are sitting exactly where we want it to sit, so I'm really happy with that. Okay, we got the frame cleaned around this mount down on the flat surfaces. So now what we need to do is we need to get the jack under the rear end. The transmission itself needs to be swung that way just a hair. And then we'll get that centered, and then we can start to tack weld these in. Okay, so here we are, got these welded in. The other side's pretty much the same, so these aren't going anywhere. So we are ready to move on, start developing the transmission crossmember. Sorry if it's loud, guys, got the fan getting all the welding smoke out of here, so I'm really happy with this. This is so solid. Look at that, moving the whole truck. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot these with some black paint just to keep them from getting that rust or corroded at all. Cover up our welds. So it came out pretty dang good. I'm pretty happy with those, man. It's awesome. They're welded here, down and around on both sides, so they are permanent. They aren't going anywhere. Holding the motor up really nice, exactly where we want it. And I'm thinking we might actually, because of we rearranged and replaced this motor into a slightly different position than our initial area, because once we realized that the clearance here wasn't going to be enough, we had to move everything up and out a little bit. We might actually be able to run the exhaust, leave the factory steering, and run the exhaust just right through here, possibly. You might have to have a custom pipe made, but pretty excited about that. The front looks awesome, perfect clearance. Now we are going to have to tilt this still, but not by too much. So, okay, we got some primer laid down on these things here. So, letting that cure. It's a little cold, so it'll take a little while to cure. Here you go. This one's all primed up, the frame and the housing there. So we'll paint those black, just so we don't get any of this rust climbing in and going up the new mount. Under the vehicle now, let's grab our angle finder. Let's recalibrate it again. Okay. 0, 0, 0. Okay. So. It's 5.6. .2. We want to get it right at 5. 5.00 on the dot. Right there is going to be our sweet spot. Let's go double check the front of the motor. Make sure our crank is clearing. We have clearance around our crank beautifully. All right, so now we just need to line it up left to right, and then we can start designing this transmission cross member. So we're doing 5 degrees because that's kind of a midpoint. A lot of rear ends, as I mentioned earlier, are anywhere between 4 and 8 degrees technically. So whatever rear end he's going to run in this, he'll be able to shim it and get it well within that spec to get 2 parallel angles, so he doesn't get any vibration from the driveline. So that is the key to all of this. So we don't have a rear end to work with, so we're just going to set the transmission to a neutral position. So touch this. We're at 18 3/4 that direction. $18 1/2 this direction. So I'm going to set up a strap. I'm going to strap it around here, around the frame, and I'm going to ratchet it to pull this where I need it. So that way we can sit it where we want it. All right, here we go. Back under this. Okay. Let's see where we're at now. I'll let this rest against it flat. All right, you guys, got the strap in here. I'm looking at I'm pulling it that way just a little bit. You can see we are gonna have to clearance a little bit more because it is riding right here. But I'm looking at about 18 9/16 going that way. All right, guys, we're looking at about 18 9/16 this way, and same thing, about 18 9/16 this direction. So we might be 1/32, 1/16 off, but that's well within spec, especially if you get the center diff. You can tell this diff is slightly offset, but right there, now we want to verify that when we pulled it, our up and down angle did not change. So let's look at that real quick. Let's calibrate it to 0 again. All right. We are at 5.00 on the dot. This is where the transmission is going to sit. We'll have to notch that out just a little bit so we don't get vibrations, but that is awesome. Let's double check the front, make sure nothing moved, even though we only moved it about 1/8 of an inch. In total, we are still clearing the crank beautifully, nothing to worry about there. All right, so we now have the transmission in its final location. I'll turn this fan off now, it's cold. It's airing out all the paint and welding smoke and everything else, but it was pouring rain earlier, but it's probably, I don't know, 40 degrees outside right now, so it's pretty cold. Maybe not as cold as it has been, but definitely still cold. Sweet drift car. All right, so let's open this bad boy up. Here is our provided transmission mount. So go here. Just go here. So it's definitely going to go this way. I got a couple studs already in there for the mount. So this will give us a rough idea of how this is going to sit, just to see if this even would clear at all. Does not clear at all. Oh, that's my hat. Interesting. So why give us this kind of mount if this kind of mount doesn't work? It doesn't fit that way, that's for sure. I guess, if we were to cut this, across, get rid of this last hole, oh, that's how that goes. Okay. So yeah, I'm guessing if we were to cut this, I don't like that. Do I like that? No. That's the problem. If we cut that, we're gonna lose. Guess that, okay. If we cut that, we bolt that on like that. I guess it can't slide off. It's got a lock washer because this is going to be in the way. All right, guys. This video is getting long, but so no matter what, we don't fit in here unless we hack off one row of adjusters. Now, you can either run the mount downwards like I was doing, or you can run it this way. This is the proper way, and then this will be the bracket on the bottom with the spacer. So we're gonna go ahead and hack this off. That's what we're gonna have to do. I want it to work. Okay, so we're back underneath this bad boy again. Okay. So, this is what we've got so far. So we got those rounded off. We had to pull this stud because there's just no way to get this in there with two studs. One, you can get one and swing it up like that, which is nice. So we're just gonna use a new bolt for this side. Once it's up there. Okay. So they are right, they're just not machined very well, so what we need to do, get a washer and an O-ring. These are gonna go down in here like so. Just like that. One, two. Okay, Finally, we have liftoff. Okay, let's get this done. Okay, now that took forever. So, one thing to note, these frames are roughly a ½ an inch apart. This one sits a ½ inch lower than this side. So 36 is definitely too small, which what we can do is we want to go here, measure the distance. From there to there. And we're gonna say, bam, 18 and 9/16. Look at that. This is what we were talking about earlier. Bam. Right smack in the middle of that mount. So we know that that was accurate. This is actually, you know what? I'm going to do this separately. Sneak that back there all the way flush. I can read it better on this side. Some light over here. There's not much left as the battery's almost dead, but get a little bit of light. Okay. Two and 1/8. So this is 38 and 1/8 across. Let me write that down. Okay, so I'm thinking 20 degrees-ish. I got my Rogue Fab protractors. This is just to give us a rough visual estimate, but here is what 20 degrees would look like from center of the rod and across. So we just got to do our math and find out what our length's going to be. So that's set at 20 degrees each bend. So 20 downwards, 20 upwards puts us right where we want to be. And that would be reversed on this side. It would go, well, I can't really get it in there on this one, but it would go right back up and over to there. So 20 degrees seems like that's going to be our magic number. Now we just need to figure out the math on length of tube. All right, they give us a little cheat code for the length of bend is going to be 0.104720 on a 6-inch centerline radius protractor. So that's what our die is in our bender. So what we want to do is we want to measure this overall length. If you can see in here, it says add 0.75 inches. So our overall length is 3 inches on the dot. So we're going to have 3 inches before the first bend. First bend is going to go down at 20 degrees. And that is going to go mathematically, we got to do this now. Get our calculator. 20 degrees times 0.104. I'm going to do the whole number, 720, even though, yeah, I could just round it up to 105, but here we are. 2.09 followed by the 3 inches at the end of the protractor. Okay, so that gives us from here to here, this should be 2.09, which actually we'll probably take the micrometer instead of doing the math. Let's see if that's accurate or not. Should, in theory, be. Switch this to inches. Zero that out. Tip to tip. Or is it bottom to bottom? No. Center to center. 2.09. Yep. 2.890. So it's center to center. Basically, right there to right there. Well, there you go, guys. You can do the math, or you could just measure here. Math's easier, though, because it's going to give you a more accurate reading than trying to perfectly find center. All right, you guys, so we need 38.125. We're going to butt these up, the 3 inch to the 3 inch, which that'll be the perfect 6 inch drop there. So what we're going to do, we know that it's going to start, I'm going to draw this squared. So we know 3 inches is going to be here, 2.09. This is a total of 6, 2.09. So we need to add 3 plus 2.09 plus 6 plus 2.09. All right. We know what we got to do. Now we need to rearrange the shop a bit because this has got to plug in over there on the big 220. So we're going to have to shove this back a little bit. Or actually, maybe we can sneak this around. That might be easier. Okay, we got the bender moved over to this side. We need to get our die out. Now, I'm not 100% sure where the bend actually starts in comparison to where the clamp block is. This is the first time using the machine. I have the paperwork somewhere, but I think because I have more than enough material, we'll always buy extra just in case we have a mistake or we need to use it for other places on the vehicle. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go ahead and clamp this thing down. Once we clean this one off, we're just going to use some WD-40 on a rag. Get rid of all the shipping label goo and everything else. Also help kind of make it a little slick, help it pull through here. Oh, nice, yeah. Okay, flip. All right. I think it'll bend about 3 inches if we put this near the end. Actually, we got plenty of distance. Maybe what I'll do, guys, so we know we're clamped on this really good, this clamp block. Clamp that in there. Okay. I think what we're gonna do should already be set up for our 3/4. Yeah, everything should already be preset to go. We got the roller. Oh, I just lost our battery, so Let me go charge this. We're just gonna go for it, guys. So what we wanna do is we wanna take the tension out. Still got, okay, I think that would be considered the tension being out. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say that's the tension going out, so we want to set our gauge to 0. Right there. Lock these bad boys down. And now we do have to consider or think about spring back, so I'm gonna go a few degrees past, probably like 23 degrees. We should have in here somewhere, we should have a, yep, clamp here for if our battery's not dead. It probably is dead. Okay, well, we can use our other one since we know that one's got juice in it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so that way we know where our rotation is. Our other digital angle finder right here. Since these bends are all going to be 180 out from one another, we want to make sure we get this set to basically 0. All right, our battery died. All right, so we want to set this to 0, as I was mentioning. We should be pretty close. It's 40, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, that'll be close enough. So we think we've got the spring back out of it. So we're gonna leave some here. We're gonna just hack it off at the 38 3/4. I'm not quite sure where the bend actually starts, so we're gonna kind of find out. We'll use this as a test piece to kind of get where we're going. So let's go to 23 degrees. '21. Yep. That's 23 degrees right there. Let's let out the spring back. Bam, right on the money. I don't know if you guys can even see that. It's too hard to move that camera. The other one's charging, but that's 20 degrees right there. We should be able to go ahead and move this. Find out with a 6-inch offset. Oh, it's right here. So 6-inch offset, I'm assuming from here to where the bend is, there's a 6 inches. So that makes sense. Probably double check that, but I'm sure I didn't read that. So again, this is the first time I'm using this, so I just I'm going for it, seeing how easy it is for a beginner to use without reading any instructions. So, and yeah, I would say that's dead on the money. Right at the highest peak from this. Basically, immediately turn. Basically immediately after the bend or right before the bend, if there's going to be 6 inches total. Yeah, so as soon as it straightens back out, pull this out a little bit, we're going to want to do that. So let me get these. Okay. 0 degrees. I want this right at the center line of my bolts, just like that. Center line of my bolts there. I want this to be in here, like so. 0, 0, 0, 0, right there. Oh, no, it moved again. Okay. Okay. All right, let's take out the tension in it. Should be right about there. And now we want to go up to about 23. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm overbuilding this. I'll just cut off the ends with the chop saw, miter saw. But what I want to do, guys, the reason I'm doing this is I want to just be able to. This is the first time, so be able to just kind of see what's what. Got plenty of material to use. So again, if I were to make a mark, and this is all just rough because I'm going to hack off both ends. So roughly about here. Roughly. It should give us roughly 3 inches to the bend before it starts, yep. And then 3 inches from this bend. Yeah. So total length is 15 1/4. So 15 1/4 is our total length. This should be like 6 inches almost on the dot. Yep, before the stretch starts. Okay. So we got about 15 1/4. So what we want to do, write this down. 15 1/4. So, get our math. Calculator. Go 15.25 times 2 equals 30.5. 38.125 minus 30.5, 7.62. So our next mark from here over 6.2 is 5/8. So it should be 7. 5/8. That should be where our next clamp goes. Let's give it a shot. Leave this a little loose so we can adjust it and get it back in there. Huh, 0, 0, 0, 0. Beautiful. Got my mark. Last time we measured from here, 8 inches, basically. We're gonna do the same thing. Okay, loosely put this on. Down 0.2, 0, 0, 0, 0. All right. Okay, 0, 0. Let's hit that 23. '21, '22, '23. Let's release this back to 0 and pull our pin. Before we pull the pin, let's go ahead and turn this bad boy off so we don't kill the battery. Done. And then let's take this bad boy off so we don't lose it. All right, let's pull this out. All right. Well, guys, looks like a motorcycle handlebar. Okay, 1 and 2. Dropping stuff. Okay. All right. This should be pretty flat, in which it is. Touching the floor on both angles there. All right. So let me get you guys seeing this. Boom. Let's back up in here. now that I know roughly how much material it leaves, next time I need to bend something, I won't waste the ends. But again, this is my first time, and I'm really happy with how that has turned out thus far. So, can't complain. Now, 38 1/8. That is our mark to hit. 38 1/8. Let's go ahead and set this out. 38 1/8. Roughly. If I come back this way just a bit. There you go. We're going to cut on the outside of those lines, here and here. Then we can sand them down so it's a nice tight fit in that frame well. But that, my friends, is going to be it for this video. I know this video is super long. We got another part coming because we're going to continue on, but editing all these long form videos takes a long time. So we're going to cut this video here, and then when we come back, we'll be finishing up the transmission crossmember. We got to draw it up on CAD. Already have a good idea in my mind on how that's going to come out. So for now, learning, building, and sharing the ride. This is JP Street and Performance. Until next time.